Hello, everybody, and welcome back for episode 11. We have some fun in store for you today regarding Hurricane Survival 101.
That is the episode.
Yeah, we
Irma.
we have been away due to the fact that we all live in Florida, and we are celebrating episode 11 and the surviving of Hurricane Irma by talking about storm and natural disasters in Magic.
Topical.
Yes.
I mean, you're a natural disaster in Magic.
Whoa. Nice, Burn.
In the lead.
I thought you weren't counting points.
I'm just saying that I am. It's not my fault. All right, so first, before we get into what we're covering today, we'd like to, again, thank our sponsor, tappedout.net. Please go there, check out the great deck building tool that they have. So today we are going to talk about an overall Florida update, how the state is doing after we got pretty demolished by that storm, how we play Storm in Magic, some natural disaster cards that we actually find to be playable in EDH, and we have another subscriber giveaway. But before we talk about the new subscriber giveaway and how you can enter in that, we would like to congratulate our first winner from episode 10, Daryl Sweet. Thank you, Daryl, for having a name that I can say online.
Daryl, you rock.
That's right.
Thanks, Daryl. You the man.
We will be contacting you very soon through YouTube in order to get your contact information so that we can send you a pack of your liking, standard legal.
Whatever you do, don't put it in the comments because you might get some weird stuff from people.
That's true. All right, here we are with our post-Hurricane Irma Florida update.
We survived.
Yay! We're all alive, actually. I mean, in all, like, non-joking, like, everybody's safe that we know, like, nobody's hurt or anything like
Got
that.
power back. Some of us later than others.
No damages, right? I don't think anyone recorded anything like
I
that.
currently have a tarp on my roof.
Ooh, geez.
Oh, you got a hole in your roof?
No, one of the shingles.
Do you think the hurricane...
I think one, maybe more, but yeah,
A couple of us lost some trees.
Oh yeah, I had a huge tree. Ripped my
fence-
mailbox apart.
Oh, jeez. My fence got kind of decimated, but luckily it's cheap PVC, so I was able to just, like, slip it back together.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was without power from, when did it hit? Sunday night? So Sunday through Wednesday.
Yeah.
I didn't get it back until Wednesday.
Yeah,
so.
it's about the same.
I did not lose power. I'm
Yeah,
renting.
seriously.
I got no damages. My car's fine.
And you live literally like a mile away from me, and you didn't lose power.
I live a mile away from you. Yeah. It was great.
That's, if you drive around Orlando or the Central Florida area and probably other areas in Florida, you're going to see a lot of debris piled up on the shoulders of the road and things like that as we're continuing the cleanup effort. But Florida has made it through another grand old time of a storm, as we do every few years.
Yeah.
So with that update out of the way, we were slowed down a little bit by that in production. So we are hopefully going to be back on our regular schedule. And moving up next, we are going to talk about how we storm and the storm legitimacy in EDH. So first of all, let's take a quick overview of what storm is. Storm originally was a keyword in Magic, which has the storm scale named after it, meaning it is one of the most powerful mechanics ever made. When you play this spell, copy it for each spell you played before it this turn.
Not
is
you.
What storm?
Anyone.
Yeah, anyone played, yeah.
Jesus, it's even better than you can even think of.
Yep.
So Storm, basically, for every spell that's been played, you get a copy of whatever spell has Storm on it. So the concept behind a Storm deck typically is that you basically want to try to cast a whole bunch of spells in a turn, and maybe have your opponents cast some spells if you can manipulate that. And then from there, use the fact that you've cast all of those spells in a turn to win via either a Storm card, like a Dragon Storm, Ignite Memories, Mind's Desire, something like that, or via something else that takes advantage of all of those spells going off in a turn, like an Aetherflux Reservoir, which has become a very common Storm-esque build since it's come out, basically. People have really...
It's
really
immediately shoot into to all Storm decks. Any decks that are casting multiple spells a turn want that card. Yeah. Or it's also... that card's actually just made such an impact on...
It's really good.
On EDH in general, because even life gain decks are using it now.
Yep, absolutely. So before we get into our takes on how we've built Storm or how we'd like to build Storm, let's talk about Storm in EDH in general and whether or not we feel it's even a legitimate mode of play. in EDH. So Shannon, what do you think about Storm in EDH?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people playing Storm, and it actually seems pretty legitimate. You have a really great card selection to support Storm. You have cards like Frantic Search, things that untap your lands after resolving. I think there's even a
Time Spiral.
Time Spiral is a really good one too. They have a lot of these cards that untap your lands, some really old cards that you can't really get in most formats. So there's a lot of support there in EDH, having the card selection. Having one-ofs makes it a little more difficult, but having like tons of cantrips, card draw, untap, and mana doubling effects seem to do a really good job of allowing people to storm. I've watched some people do it. So pretty impressive to see somebody play, like 18 spells in a single turn in EDH. So I definitely think it's viable. There's some particularly good Izzet commanders for doing that kind of thing. And I haven't really done a traditional Storm deck myself, but I have a unique take on it that we can talk about next. But Ryan, what do you think?
I think Storm is extremely viable. I personally have played Storm in EDH before, and I have a couple friends who we've tinkered with a couple decks here and there. But yeah, overall, I mean, you covered the majority of the spells themselves, like that I would mention. But like you get access to stuff like Faithless Looting. Did you say Turnabout?
No,
Turnabout's extremely powerful. Yeah. You take the High Tide, you untap all your lands. I mean, granted, if you want to shell out the money, Candelabra.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that wins on its own. Yeah. That wins on its own, but I mean, like...
you can't... If you resolve with Candelabra, like, you got it. You paid enough to win.
You paid $300 whatever some odd dollars to win the game. I mean, congratulations. But yeah, overall, I think Storm is a completely viable strategy. You just have to really build your deck and curve correctly. Yeah. Also with your fixing, like rocks are a big thing when it comes to it. Especially, and I know, speaking of, Storm, where we're talking about cards, Aetherflux Reservoir, one of the biggest things that's actually been going into Storm decks that you wouldn't even classify as Storm decks is Paradox Engine.
Oh well, yeah.
That card is just turning decks into Storm decks because it untaps all your elves, it untaps all your mana rocks. It just, you can go infinite with a Paradox Engine.
Right. I mean, I feel the same way. I feel like it's viable. I don't know that I am 100% on board. Yeah, I mean, Ryan's roomie even was rolling with a Storm deck for a while in our play group. I mean, it worked. But I think it's a big skill tester as far as deck building goes.
Yeah, it was impressive sometimes how early he could go off.
But it also can misfire very easily.
Yeah, it can stumble. It can definitely stumble early game if you don't hit those cantrips and you just keep drawing large CMC spells.
Exactly. And I've started to build a Storm deck for our league, and I am running into that issue in the deck building where I want to put all these good things in there. And I'm like, I just need 1 mana cantrips. That's all I need. That's all I need to put in there. So I think it is viable. I think it's a really difficult strategy. And I also don't think it's the most reliable strategy. I love it because when it goes off, I mean, I like to see combos go off. Yep. When Storm takes off, and it's pretty impressive.
I will say that I would like to temper everyone's expectations of Storm because you are saying that it does not always go off, which is true. But the one thing I would like to warn everyone about is if you play Storm, chances are you will make some people salty because you take very, very long turns. Everyone's sitting around watching you, hoping that you do win the game because you just took 15 minutes. And if you don't win, the game, if you're in a 4-man pod and you don't win the game, you're going to have 3 people trying to kill you next turn.
Yeah, they simply don't want you to do that.
They don't want you to do that again. Exactly. Yeah. And it's completely understandable because I've watched it and I've seen people take their time, and it's a very hard thought process when you're deep in the tank and you're like, well, I can kill this person and this person, but not that person. So if they live, it's just so much going on, and the turns are very long.
They've also just probably seen you cast like 7 spells in a turn, and they're like, okay, well, his storm count was 7 and he just didn't have the win. Next turn, he could probably do the same thing and have the win.
Correct.
So let's go into our takes on Storm, because I think we've all either are currently attempting to build or have built in the past a Storm deck. So Ryan, what is your general take on Storm in EDH?
I mean, in EDH, the traditional Storm. Personally, I know for a long time there, Malik was the
Paragon.
Yeah, he was the supreme Storm leader, just based off the fact that, he was Izzet where you wanted to be. I know Keranos sees some play based off like a little bit of card draw, but in my personal opinion, I think since the Commander Precon came out with Mizzix, the point is that he's pretty good, and by pretty good I mean the best in my opinion. He comes down on 4, and every single spell just starts to snowball harder and harder and harder. And I know people are all about the X spells with him, but you don't even need X spells. You just need 2 blue, 3 colorless. You just got yourself, a pour over the pages for 2.
But even, your X spells turn into card draw and like cantrips at that point because you just.
But I think that's one of the few Storm decks that can literally just win with the capsize at that point. Because when you're discounted so much and generating so insane amount of lands, you just start capsizing everyone's lands.
And the decks can do the same thing with reiterates. Because the reiterate buyback, it just turns into like one red copy spell. Or copy target spell.
Mizzix is definitely. I played with him as a precon commander.
Guy's insane.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah.
Those experience counters are just too tough to deal with.
All right, so traditional route for you, Shannon. What is your route?
So I took a less traditional route, and it was based around a commander that came out, and I looked at him and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty interesting. And that is Arjun, the Shifting Flame. So Arjun's shtick is that whenever you cast a spell, he's like a mind moil on a creature. So every time you cast a spell, you take the rest of the cards in your hand, you put them on the bottom of your deck, and you draw that many. So the idea was that you get to look, when you're storming, you get to look at your entire deck, basically. If you start storming over and over and over again, your card selection becomes like infinite. You get to see everything in your deck. So the way I designed this one, I know a lot of people had some builds that are more traditional, but I went with the artifact-centric list that is basically, I call it Arjun Eggs. So it looks a lot for 0, 1, and 2 drop artifacts, some artifact discounting effects to make them basically 0. And the goal is to basically just start casting your artifacts for 0, grabbing a new hand, finding the best artifact, casting that one, and continuing on. You lose a card every time you cast a spell. So a lot of the artifacts I picked are ones that can put cards back into your hand, whether it even be a basic land, like for example the land-based Wellspring. So there's a lot of different cards in there for discounting those things to make them cheap. And then the win cons are traditionally like Aetherflux Reservoir. Also just as simple as a Psychosis Crawler. The amount of draw power you go through in a turn will instantly kill everyone in the pod if they can't deal with it. So it's a pretty interesting deck. It's one of the only ones I've ever designed where it's solely focused on a single turn, killing the entire pod. So it's definitely my... I don't know if it'd be my most Johnny. It'd probably be my most Johnny deck I've ever built, but it's a lot of fun. And like Ryan said, sometimes the funnest part is making everyone sit there and watch you for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. All of us have brought it up at this point, and it's something that we do need to emphasize with Storm, because you were saying you play a whole bunch of artifacts and you prioritize the ones that draw you extra cards. Ryan, you were also saying that you need all those cantrips and things that we were talking about. That is one of the things that you have to prioritize extraordinarily highly if you're anywhere near Storm. You have to absolutely prioritize drawing more cards.
Your draw power has to be so high.
For my take on it, I actually have one that was already built and then one that I am currently in the middle of building. So my first one is Brea Cheerios. And this was built off of the, not exactly tier standard deck concept, which was a whole bunch of 0 and X costing artifacts so that you can play the X costing artifacts for 0, and then playing things that allow you to bounce all of your permanents back to your hand and then replaying them again, and essentially casting the same things over and over and over again 20 times in a turn, having something like an Aetherflux Reservoir out. And so you've got 20 cast triggers and then just doming people for 50 and just taking them out right there. So that's the general idea behind Brea Cheerios. My new one that I'm building is for the League, which is Kess Storm. So the new Commander Kess, which allows you to play a spell, an instant or sorcery spell
from your graveyard on your turn.
But you have to exile it on your turn. I just thought that was better in Wizards than Anala, which was the other one. So I went with the Kess route. And I built a fairly traditional Storm deck. It's got Mind's Desire and Tendrils as the main win cons. Aetherflux Reservoir is going to go in there. And then just things like Yawgmoth's Will, so I can replay Brainstorms and Opts and things like that. It has your High Tide and your Turnabout, Time Spiral, all of your normal candidates, and then a few ritual type effects, or a decent amount of ritual type effects. Yeah.
Mana guys are huge.
Yeah, Dark Ritual, Demonic Tutor, so that I can actually look for my Storm pieces, because it is a combo deck that's kind of fragile. And Demonic Tutor only costs 2 mana, so it's pretty decent. Yeah. And then the rest of the creatures in it are basically cost reducers. Anything that drops the casting cost of instants and sorceries is in there. So you've got Baral and Goblin Electromancer and things like that. And that's pretty much it. I don't know how it's going to work out yet because we've just made our third round of changes.
Yeah.
And so 15 cards into the changes, it's still not very stormy.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Overall, folks, I think we're saying thumbs up to Storm. I think there's a lot of different routes of play, though a lot of them do seem to end up at the Aetherflux Reservoir.
Yep.
But there's a lot of different ways to play it. It is super fun. Not even necessarily super expensive because a lot of you've got mana rocks, which are cheap. You've got a lot of like cheap draw things like, what Brainstorm's probably 50 cents, $1, something like that. A lot of those types of cards. And then a couple win cons, and that's about it. I mean, if you start going wheels and things like that, it can get maybe a little bit more expensive. But all right, so moving into our next segment in our Hurricane Survival is a summary of some natural disaster cards that are playable in EDH.
Oh, yeah.
To start it off, Shannon, what is your first natural disaster card?
All right, my first natural disaster card is one of my favorite X spells in Magic. It is Lavalanche. And that is it's a Jund card, so it's X and a black, a red, and a green for a sorcery that deals X damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. So not only does it slam them in the face, but then it wrecks all of their creatures on the board. So one of my favorite X spells. This and Villainous Wealth are the two cards that have been kind of pushing me back towards
Villainous Wealth.
some kind of X-based deck like Roshan Meander, like just trying to pump out a bunch of mana and is playing nothing but ridiculously overcost spells.
Ryan, your first pick.
Oh, my first pick? Blood Moon. No. They're looking at me.
It's a normal phenomenon.
That is not normal. A Blood Moon is normal?
Yeah.
It's a Harvest Moon.
So our land turns to mountains. Congrats. Anyways, no. My first natural disaster card is Sinkhole.
That's a good one. And topical for Florida.
Oh, yes. We have a lot of those. And hopefully your house isn't on top of one if you live in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, Sinkhole is double black sorcery, blow up target land. And it is, what's really unfortunate about this card? I mean, this card's good, right? Like, I like it. But it's not instant, so you can't put it on the Isochron Scepter.
Oh, because
so sad.
That's what I wanted.
Tough, man.
As soon as I saw that card when I first started playing, I was like, "Oh, Isochron Scepter Sinkhole." Oh, Isochron only says.
You're a horrible person.
Have you ever heard that modern deck that bounces lands with Isochron Scepter Boomerang every turn?
It's a cheaper Stone Rain. Like, what else do you want?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's a solid.
An instant speed Stone Rain.
Oh, okay.
Is that too much to ask for, Wizards?
Yeah,
come on, guys.
I think so.
Adam.
Yeah. So my first one is Rolling Earthquake. So this is a real weird throwback. Rolling Earthquake is X and red for a sorcery that says Rolling Earthquake deals X damage to each creature without horsemanship and each player. So I really prefer this one to regular Earthquake because this hits flying creatures also. So it does the job of Hurricane and Earthquake all at the same time. It still deals damage to players, and you can redirect that to walkers. I think this is a legit include in red decks.
You're gonna regret going up against our friend who has a Sun Quan deck.
That's true. Yeah, that one instance.
I feel like this is like an obligatory statement that Adam would pick a card that says horsemanship on it. Like the jankiest of janks.
If he said killed everything without banding, he would be so hard on that card.
Oh God, so good. All right, Shannon, what is your second pick?
All right, my second pick is Wildfire, and that is a 6 mana, 4 and double red sorcery that says each player sacks 4 lands, and then Wildfire deals 4 to each creature. So this is a pretty decent land destruction card. It also deals a lot of damage to creatures. You can use this in kind of like a land destruction-centric deck to keep the board kind of clear and keep people kind of down on their land count. So it's pretty good card, and also kind of topical for the West Coast people. Here there's a lot of fires up in the Northwest there. There's not so breathable anymore, so...
I like that card a lot, actually.
Yeah, solid card.
I believe it sees modern play in some funny jank decks, and it's really funny watching people sacrifice 4 lands.
Yeah.
The struggle.
It makes me happy.
So, Ryan, what is your second one?
My second one?
Yeah.
Tsunami.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're going just straight alpha right now? Like Sinkhole to Tsunami?
No, I'm going straight LD because I feel destructive.
Fair enough.
I mean, Irma was pretty destructive. I'm sure there was some land that got messed up somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Tsunami is 1 green, 3 colors, sorcery. It is what it does is it says blow up all islands. It blows up.
Tsunami isn't a blue card. It's a green card?
It is a green card that says blow up all islands, so it's actually a I hate blue card. Anyone who hates Anyone who hates blue should play this card.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, green players hate blue players.
Exactly. I watch people play green all the time. They're like, I hate blue. Well, actually, I think blue and green actually have like a hatred for each other, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
Because you got the choke and acid rain and things like that.
Genuinely just hatred. And the red and white hate each other.
All right, so my second card is Landslide. Everybody know what that does, right?
No one cares.
No
one cares.
All right, so Landslide is 1 red for a sorcery that says sacrifice any number of mountains. Landslide deals that much damage to target player.
Oh, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah.
Flavorful.
Yeah, it's it's very flavorful. I mean, it's obviously a super all-in card unless you have a way of actively recurring your mountains. But a decent finisher in red. I mean, late game, this could easily do 10, 15 damage to somebody if you're in mono red. So I like it. While I was doing research for this segment, I came upon it and I was like, I love this card. I must play it now.
Oh, yeah, I like that as the kind of like red deck wins finisher. I remember when they used to run devastating summons, which literally sacked like 2 elementals.
Yeah.
But that one seems even better. It's like, do you got it or you don't?
That's right. All right. So Shannon, what is your final one? I know you like this one.
So yes. So I upgraded from Wildfire to Yockelhops, and that is a sorcery 4 red. So 6 mana. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They cannot be regenerated. So this is one card that I actually consistently am running as my, when people build Super Friend decks, they tend to have a lot of time warp effects and land destruction. I try to stay away from that because people roll their eyes a lot. But this is the one I kept in there. It does a fantastic job with walkers because it blows up basically everything but walkers, leaving your walkers there to say, sup, and kind of close that game out. So Yockelhops is my top tier natural disaster card. And if you're curious as to what that is, it is a glacial flood. Whenever a lake trapped inside of a glacier cracks through, all of a sudden you have an entire lake flooding you when you're near a glacier. So,
how many glaciers do we have in Florida?
We none, 0.
So we don't have to worry about a Yockelhops in real life?
No.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Okay, cool.
So Ryan, what is your last card?
My last card?
Yeah.
Well, my last card is Volcanic Fallout, and yes, there is an eruption happening in the background, and it is falling on people. Basically, Volcanic Fallout is a instant speed, deal 2 damage, so an instant speed pyroclasm. However, it's double red and a colorless, and it can't be countered, and it deals 2 damage to creatures and players. This card saw, I know, a buttload of standard play.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, granted, its EDH application isn't like there unless you're like really looking to get away from that aggro. But the fact that it can't be countered and the fact that it hits creatures and players, just a nice little like dagger. I know it sees play and legacy out of the board for like the creature based decks and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, 2 damage is not huge in EDH, but at the same time, you'd be surprised how many people get completely thrown off by it.
yes,
you're killing zombies and oracles and token armies at instant speed and things like that. It can do some decent damage.
It is a good thing to note that against like a Tower End deck, it's a very powerful card.
Sure.
It kills Tower End and
so dead to Volcanic Fallout.
Yeah, just so dead. It kills literally their entire board. Oh, I can't. Oopsies. All right, I guess it's time.
I'm not even building that deck now, just because of that.
Don't build Tower End. We gave everyone the secret tech, guys. Sorry.
All right. So for my last one, I have Cyclone. Again, we all know what this does, right?
What? Where are you getting these cards from?
Veto
this
to
is from
stop.
Arabian Nights.
Veto to stop Adam right now.
So Cyclone is an enchantment from Arabian Nights for 2 green. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, put a wind counter on Cyclone. Then sacrifice Cyclone unless you pay green for each wind counter on it.
Oh, so it has cumulative upkeep. They just get it right.
Exactly.
They didn't know about it then.
If you pay, Cyclone deals damage equal to the number of wind counters on it to each creature and each player.
Ouch.
So it's basically like a storm that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and wiping out bigger and bigger creatures as
that is the reddest green card.
Wait.
Like, it is.
It gets bigger like a cyclone? It's like the flavor.
The flavor and the art is beautiful on this thing. Like,
Actually really cool looking art.
Yeah. Like,
what is that?
It's like a temple.
It's a
it's a palace.
It's like
okay.
a big old,
being sucked up into a cyclone.
Torn up into the sky.
So yeah, I think this card is great. It's an effect that green doesn't obviously get very often, as Shannon just pointed out. It's kind of a red effect.
Yeah.
But it's really cool, and I think that you can have enough ramp in green as well as enough life gain in green to kind of stand up to this while everybody else gets kind of nuked
Does this
by it.
like combo wombo with Braids of Fire? Like, do they just like equally grow and you can just use one to pay the other? Like, this is a weird card. I'm kind of intrigued with this weird card.
Yeah, it's a strange card, but yeah, that's that
cool.
is my last one.
Leave it to Adam to dredge up some esoteric stuff that we've never heard of before. All right.
Thanks, dude.
So
we learned something today.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us again, and thanks again to our sponsor, tappedout.net, where you can find all of our deck lists on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell icon to get notifications. And for the giveaway from episode 11, this episode, make sure that you are a subscriber. As long as you're a subscriber, you are automatically entered. Also, please make sure that your privacy settings are set up right so that we can actually see you if you're a subscriber. It's
hard to pick you as a winner.
Yes. If we can't see you, then we can't pick you. So I apologize for that. If you'd like to follow us, you can find us on the web at thetrinisphere.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Squire9999 and on Tapped Out as Squire1. Ryan the Spike, you can follow on Twitter as Snapmaster. And on Tapped Out as I'm Ryan Reese. Shannon the Timmy, you can follow on Twitter and Tapped Out both as Nikki Bolus. And that is it for us this time. We will catch you for episode 12. And remember, as always, stay brewing, my friends.